So this presentation will be going over using NGINX to create a reverse proxy server. So here's a high-level overview of the whole process, and we are currently on 7. And so the video overview will install NGINX, add trusted SSL certificate to the NGINX config file. We're going to add PrairieLearn site to the NGINX sites enabled folder, and we're going to have to restart NGINX. So here are our sources. I would highly recommend going into the NGINX docs, the server configs, and the NGINX reverse proxy to get more in-depth understanding about this. But hopefully the walkthrough will be a good enough understanding. But if not, you can go through these documentations. So big picture why. So PEM encoded is the certificate encoding. And this is the file the ETG will send back to you. And since we're using NGINX to reverse proxy, the configuration will ask for this type of encoded file. And why do we need reverse proxy? Well, this enables a secure connection, which is basically HTTPS for authentication. And why NGINX? It's a simple way to do a reverse proxy, and it has ample documentation. That's why I highly recommend it. And the site's enabled, is just the default directory to a custom configuration, and NGINX will read this to see if there's any different configurations needed to follow. Else it will default to the basic one. So here's the diagram overview. So here's the diagram focus. So we're just gonna be in the virtual machine, and we're gonna be in NGINX, and we're gonna be using or creating the configuration file and using the SSL certificate key. And the main component for NGINX will be installing. Here's the command to install it. We're gonna go side with the default settings, and then we're gonna update the sites enabled folder. Here are the steps to do that. And then we are gonna make a new file, call it whatever, but has to end with the .conf extension. And then we are going to pretty much restart NGINX. And the SSL certificate key, you're going to confirm with ETG that it's PEM encoded. It's a certificate, and copy this key into the NGINX config files, or pretty much from your local machine into the VM. But I'll be going over that in the walkthrough too. So here's the walkthrough. It's just the process of using the SSL certificate to configure NGINX to be able to use HTTPS. Welcome back, guys. So first this video is gonna be NGINX setup. So we're currently just copying the certificate we received from your department. That helps you with all this. Getting your certificate. So right here, I'm just SSH copying it into the actual server. So as you can see, we use SCP and then the directory to the file, and then we're SSH intoing the VM, and then we're specifying the directory in the VM where we want to save it. So we can enter this, and it's going to ask us for the password. So you just enter your password, and now it is copied into the VM. So we're going to move over to Visual Studio Code, and we can see, it is in there now, their certificate. And with the certificate, we have to make sure it's PEM encoded. So just verify that it's PEM encoded with your department that's helping you with this. And we're going to need to add some word right here. So it says begin certificate. We're going to need to add the word trusted in between those, because NGINX uses a trusted certificate. So if you just add the word trusted, it will work. And now, so if it didn't say trusted, just add trusted, but I believe you should have trusted in there. I had some issues earlier where it didn't work. So now we're just installing actually NGINX, and then it's going to ask you for your password. You want to continue, yes, and then just let that go, and then it's going to ask for like a newer kernel update, and you're just going to pretty much hit enter with this. and then we are gonna restart the system. So that's okay. Just click OK or click enter. For some reason it took me a little bit to click enter. Alright, there we go. So now that's okay, and then that's okay. It's just gonna restart, and you just let this go, and then you'll be able to enter back into it. So now that you're back into it, we can see that NGINX is installed. And here we are able to see, so that file, we're actually now going to copy the SSL folder from our VM user directory to the NGINX. But the problem is, VM, the Visual Studio Code, doesn't have permissions, pseudo permissions. So we're actually just going to copy from the console. And I'm bringing up this document to help me remind me the actual command. So we're going to use that sudo cp-a, which means all the content in the folder, and then the directory to the folder you want to copy, and then the directory to where you want to copy it. So we're just going to type it out. We're actually going to go to the directory of the location we want, and that's where the dot dash on the last part means. So sudo copy -a, all of it, the directory of what we want to copy, and then we're going to copy into the folder we're currently in, which is the NGINX. So now we can see it doesn't load right away. You can see me trying to see the SSL folder, but if you looked into, if you type in the console ls, it should be in there, the SSL. So now we can verify that all the keys are in there and everything. And then we are gonna actually, now we are gonna create a file for the configuration for our actual NGINX reverse proxy. So here you can't make the folders within the VS Code or files, so we're just gonna SSH into or go into the sites available. But I did make a mistake here. It should be the sites enabled. So here you're just, whatever I'm doing here, just make sure it's in the sites enabled instead of sites available. Just make sure you use sudo also. So now we can see it's verified it's in there, but make sure it's in the sites enabled. As you can see, if you go to NGINX over here, I just made this mistake, but I changed it later on in the video. So this should be in sites enabled. You see that the folder is right below it. So now, as we can see, we can't save anything on this actual file because, again, no root permission. So there's actually this extension called save as root in remote SSH. So just install that, and then we can see the command right there. If I'm gonna scroll up, but this helps you save as root instead of just saving as a regular user. So the command is Control-Shift-P, and it's just gonna ask you for your password, and now we can save it automatically, or not automatically, but now we can save it within VS Code. So first we're gonna make the server for the actual HTTP, just the regular one. But with this, we're just redirecting to HTTPS. So anyone trying to access with HTTP is gonna get redirected to HTTPS. So that's why we're just listening on port 80, which is the default port for HTTP. And now we're gonna go. First, I'm verifying if NGINX is running, and we can see it is running. And now we're gonna. I just keep looking at this. So now we can continue adding the access log, which is just like pretty much just logging all the what's happening, all the who's accessing and from where, what time, and all that. And so right now, I guess I did a typo right here. It should just be SD May 2346, and then pretty much you just name it access.log. You pretty much name it whatever you want. Server name, this is important. We want to make sure it's the name of the server we're on, which is SDMay. And here's another typo where it should be SDMay 2346. You can see I do change that later on too. And this is location of, so this is like the directory of just the dash, or like the default directory, and we are gonna return, basically just redirect them. It's the 301 is the protocol of redirecting, so we're just gonna redirect them to the HTTPS, the same URL, and then we're just gonna add the money sign and then request URI, which is just redirecting to this next server we're gonna make, which is the actual SSL server, the HTTPS server. So we're gonna listen on port 443, which is the SSL. We're gonna specify that, and then you can add HTTP2. You don't have to, but it's just a new protocol, and it's probably recommended to use that now. So now we're gonna add the certificates we copied from the from our VM user and from we received. So see, we copy the actual certificate, and then we're gonna copy the SSL certificate key, the private key. Don't show anyone this key because it is private information, and yeah, just don't show anyone. So now we're gonna add the actual server name, and I copied over, but yeah, again, I had the typo here where it should be 23-46 instead of 46-23. So now we're just adding another access log to this HTTPS of who's accessing it and all that, and it's pretty much just typing the same thing as I did above. I did change it up a little bit, but it's pretty much whatever you want to type it, but just make sure it's .access.log. Now we are gonna make a kind of variable. We're setting a variable which is gonna be the upstream, which is saying this is gonna be so this IP address is localhost, and we're just setting the upstream because we're currently running the Docker or PrairieLearn on that upstream, but on port 3000, which we're going to specify. So we're going to do the same thing as the location dash, which is just the default directory, and then we're just going to start adding the proxy pass, and then we're going to add pretty much saying when they access this server, this is where we're sending them. So that upstream, the local host port 3000 where our PrairieLearn is running. And then we're adding some headers now, and these headers, I'm not going to explain them in this video, but I will put a link down in the description of what they all mean, pretty much just out of the NGINX website. So we're just going to add the proxy pass header for authorization, and then we're going to start setting some headers. And these are kind of the basic ones to set up. So first we're setting up the header for the host, and then we're going to set the header for the real IP. We're just going to put the remote address. So yeah, just follow along with these. For me, they still don't make too much sense, but they are necessary, I guess, to have. I haven't really tested NGINX without them, so yeah, I would recommend just putting them. And then we're gonna add, so those are all the headers, and then we're gonna just set the connection as a pretty much a empty string. And then we are gonna set the buffering. I'm pretty sure we turn it off. Yeah, turn off the buffering, and then we are gonna do one more setting. I think is the turning off the redirect. And now we are done with this one, and we can save that as root with Control Shift P. Save as root. It's not going to ask you for your password again. So this is the main file that should be done. You can back up on the video to make sure, like pause the video, but this is pretty much what will get you up and running. And then you just want to sudo NGINX restart, but again, remember, it should be in sites enabled, not available. So what I'm doing right here is just restarting NGINX. Just use this configuration file. And then I see the status, and then I see it is running, but I really didn't do anything because it's in the wrong directory. So you're gonna see me. So right here and now, we're gonna move over this file to the sites enabled. So I can see I'm copying this file, and now I'm gonna move it over to the sites enabled. So this is really the main file that you should configure. Pretty much the biggest, like the most important of the NGINX. And now we can see it is in sites enabled. So now we have that. Now we can restart it again. And then we're gonna check the status. Maybe. Yeah, we're gonna check the status. And we can see it is running. It is working off of that file. And we can verify it right here. And now we have HTTPS on the server. We can see it is protected. And so yeah, now we have HTTPS. So the next video, now we can start setting up Google authorization. And yeah, I believe this is it to get NGINX. And just make sure you add you use sites enabled instead of sites available. Alright, so that's going to be it for this video. To recap, a reverse proxy server is set up and will pretty much redirect you from HTTP, the regular protocol, to HTTPS, which is on port 443. And this enables a secure connection port to that HTTPS. And I will go back to the diagram to really show. So the end user will access with port 80 right here, and the reverse proxy will pretty much just redirect you to the secure connection, and then the secure connection will finally get you to the Docker container. And I'll be going over this Google Auth step after. So just go to the finish slide. So the next step is pretty much just setting up that authentication. And to do this, we're going to create a Google Auth account, update the config.json, and then we're going to add admins to the PrairieLearn server. Thank you.